Hey you action figure enthusiasts out there, JC here with another T&I toy review. And today's review is in association with MarvelousNews.com, your #1 news source for everything Marvel. And for today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the brand new Marvel Legends 6-inch X-23 as Wolverine figure from Hasbro. Now this figure is part of the second wave of Deadpool themed figures. It comes packaged in the same style that we see with all the Marvel Legends. You've got the black box up at the top, you've got the Marvel Legends series logo. At the very top you've got the X symbol with the red border. You've got the figure clearly displayed in the window box, and then down below you've got the character's name, Wolverine, because this is X-23 inner Wolverine costume. And then on the sides of the packaging you've got some artwork of X-23 in the Wolverine costume. And on the back of the packaging you've got a look at the actual figure, a brief bio in multiple languages, and then down below a look at all the figures in the wave that you need to get in order to complete the Sauron Build-A-Figure. Alright, let's get this open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside the packaging along with the other contents. Now first thing you get with this figure is the left arm and wing for the Sauron Build-A-Figure, and I'll be taking a look at the Sauron figure in its own review once I've looked at all the figures in this wave, so be sure to check back for that. Okay, now for actual figure accessories we get two different head sculpts. The first head sculpt is the masked one. This is the one that's attached to the figure when you first take it out of the packaging. She's got the long black hair which is kind of flowing off to the left side with this masked head sculpt. The hair is done with a fairly hard plastic and there's really no wash effect, so it's a solid black. But overall I think that looks pretty good. And then she's wearing that Wolverine type mask, so she's got the fin pieces which are painted with a light blue, and then the rest of the mask is done with a pretty bright yellow. Now I do have some pretty decent sloppiness with the paint on this head sculpt. You can see some blue is washed onto the yellow portions on the top here, and some yellow is washed onto the blue portions. And then here on the front you can see some blue is bled over to the yellow there around her nose, and I've got a little bit of blue also bleeding onto her skin tone. So that's probably my biggest fault with this figure, is you've got some sloppy paint. The skin tone is pretty good, and she's got the red lipstick and the whited out eyes, and the overall face expression I think is pretty good. So as far as the actual head sculpt itself goes, I think it's pretty decent, but again you do have some sloppy paint on it, which is a little disappointing. Now the second head sculpt, which switching out is easy, you just pop off the head, you've got the ball joint there, and then you pop on the alternate head sculpt. Now the alternate head sculpt is an unmasked head sculpt, and I think this looks pretty good overall. The paint applications on this one are much better. The hair is more straight down, again done with a solid black color. And then the eyes, I think the eyes are painted pretty good with this one. She's got the eyebrows. She's not wearing a bright red lipstick with this one. I'm not sure if we, maybe have seen this head sculpt before. It looks kind of familiar, but I haven't placed it exactly, so I'm not 100% sure. But overall, I think it works well with this character. And again, the paint applications on the unmasked head are better than the masked one. Okay, now for the rest of the figure, I think they've done a pretty good job overall. It's not perfect. Again, a few paint blemishes. The worst paint blemishes again are on the head sculpt itself, the masked head sculpt. And the rest of the figure is done with the same paint scheme. You've got the yellow and the blue, the fairly bright blue, and then she's wearing this belt which is a separate piece that has the X symbol. The belt is done with brown and some metallic silver, and then the red and black on the buckle itself. I think that looks pretty good. She's got the claws. The claws are done with a gray plastic like we often see, and she's just got the two claws on each hand. And like we see with Wolverine figures, you can't actually remove these claws. They just kind of pop into place. Now when you do remove the claws, you do have the holes that show up, but you can't actually remove it, so it looks like she doesn't have her claws extended if you want to. Now this figure incorporates that smaller female body, so like with all the figures that use that body, we get that gappage between the legs and the crotch section, which I really don't like at all. But again, we always see that. I've got a little bit of bleeding here on the thigh where you can see some of the blue coming through, so it does make the yellow look a little bit different tone of color than the upper portion of the leg here. Down here on the boots I also have some blue kind of bleeding through with the yellow. Not a big deal, but you do notice it a little bit. And then she's got the claw toes, so we didn't see this with the X-Force version they recently did, but they have included the claw toes with this one, which I like. Even though she doesn't really use the claw toes, I don't think that much when she's wearing this outfit, I'm still glad they incorporated it. Now, like with the hand claws, you can actually just remove it. It just plugs in with a little hole, so it does look a little funny when you take them off. You've got that hole, but I like the fact that they did make them removable. I kind of wish they'd made it like the Toy Biz one where you could actually just fold it into the bottom of the foot, and I'll show you that in a moment. But as it is, you can take them off, and they kind of stick out, you know, in a U type shape, so definitely, you know, they're noticeable when you have them extended. But I am glad overall that they did include those with this figure. And then on the back, again, you just have the yellow and blue, a little bit of bleeding of blue here on the arms, and here on the lower legs again. Definitely the yellow on the torso section is brighter than the legs because you've got that blue kind of bleeding through. Okay, so this figure stands, if you count to the tip of her mask, right about 5 3/4 inches tall. Okay, and here's a comparison with the recent X-Force X-23 figure that Hasbro did. And these two figures share a lot of the same parts. The legs and the torso and the arms, I think, are all the same. Now, the belt pieces are a little bit different between the two figures. The head sculpts are different. The boots are different with the feet. Those are all different. The hands, I think they're the same hands. They look pretty much the same. The only thing that really kind of separates the hands is you'll notice here that the claws are set farther apart on the new Wolverine version. They're much closer together with this X-Force version. I've tried playing around with the claws a little bit on the Wolverine version to see if I could get them to sit closer, and have not been able to do so. I don't know if the hands, you know, again, they look pretty much the same, but definitely those claws seem to kind of sit differently inside the hands with them being farther apart on the Wolverine version. And if you want to take the unmasked X-23 head sculpt that came with the Wolverine figure and use it on the X-Force version, it does work. Now here's a comparison with the older Toy Biz X-23 figure, and overall I think the Hasbro figure does look better. My only thing about the Toy Biz one is I liked how you could do the toe claws where you fold it up inside the foot. Now the one downside to that was it sometimes made the figure hard to stand, but I think it definitely looks better when you kind of fold it in under the foot there like you could with the Toy Biz one, as opposed to just removing it and then having that hole kind of sticking out. But otherwise, you know, like I said, I do think the new Hasbro version does look better overall than the Toy Biz one. And then finally, here's a comparison with the recent Tiger Stripe Wolverine figure from Hasbro. Now for articulation, she can turn her head to the left and to the right, and she can actually look down pretty good, but really can't look back very much because of the hair. She also really doesn't have a whole lot in the way of head pivot. Now with the arm, she can get her arm out good. She's got good rotation there at the shoulder. She does not have a bicep swivel, and of course only has a single hinged elbow because she is a female Marvel Legend, so she can bend her elbow about that much. She also has rotation there at the elbow, has rotation at the wrist, hinges on the hand, so up and down movement with that. She has a midsection joint, so she's got rotation there at the midsection. She can pivot a little bit to the left and the right, and really has not much in the way of crunch movement, no ab crunch, and can only look back a little bit there. Does not have a waist swivel. With the legs, can only do the splits about that much. She can get her leg forward pretty good, and then she can do her leg back about that much. She has a thigh swivel. She has a double hinged knee, so good bending there at the knee. She also has a boot cuff swivel, so you've got some rotation there, and then hinges on the feet, so up and down movement, and she does have ankle pivot, and 2 peg holes on the bottom of the feet. Okay, so that's my review. So overall I would say I like this figure better than the previous X-Force version, in large part just because I like this outfit better. However, I do have some complaints about this figure. I don't like the gappage that you have between the legs and the crotch like you always see with this mold. And then my biggest complaint comes with the paint applications themselves. Definitely some sloppiness with the paint on this one. And if you end up picking this one up, I would probably recommend you inspect it first and try and get the one with the best paint. I do like the fact they included the toe claws this time around, and I like the unmasked head sculpt as well. Now this figure, along with the rest of the wave, has started to hit shelves. We'll have a full image gallery up at marvelousnews.com. There'll be a link in the video description below. As always, leave a comment, let me know what you think. If you're so inclined, please like the video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel by hitting that button down below. I'd really appreciate it. You should also hit the bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. And of course, you can also follow me on my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts. I have links to all those in the video description as well. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later.